What up, guys? Welcome back to the Rideshare Show. I'm Jermaine Ellis, here with
Mike Dean, and thanks for joining us for another fantastic episode of the Rideshare Show. All right, so Jermaine, what are we going to be talking about today?
let's dive into independent contractor versus employee.
3 episodes, by the way. Independent contractor versus employee.
Yeah.
Which one am I? We'll be talking about 10 ways to get deactivated as an Uber driver. Of course, this also applies to Lyft, probably any rideshare for that matter, maybe even food delivery. Well, of course, no, not necessarily.
Yeah, not necessarily.
And I think you'll find this one as a favorite. Rent versus
Lease
versus
Buy.
Car ownership, buying a car, new or used, whatever. All right, well, let's just start off with independent contractor versus employee. Now, this is a huge controversy with regards to what's going on with lawsuits and, labor disputes and things of that nature. Let's just start off with us and get an idea of like how you feel. I mean, how do you feel about like where do you fit? Where do you think you fit in terms of are you an independent contractor or an employee?
Well, a lot of times it feels like, I'm classified as an independent contractor, but certain times it feels like I'm an employee, especially working for Uber or working for a lot of these sharing economy platforms. And the main reason I say that is sometimes they tell you have to do certain things, and I'm trying to figure this out. If I'm an independent contractor, shouldn't I be able to pick and choose,
Well, you can, technically. I mean, you don't have to log in, do you?
Well, technically...
Isn't that what defines what being independent means? Is that you have the choice of actually working or you don't?
Okay, yes, I agree. But no, it doesn't really work that way. If you go out and drive on a Tuesday in the middle of the day, you're going to make way less money than if you drive during the peak hours, Peak hours, you're going to make more, but it's almost like if I work the peak hours, it's like I'm on a schedule. It's almost like I'm working a job.
So you're kind of almost, in a sense, you're saying like forced to kind of drive during a certain time where you're going to make the most money?
I wouldn't exactly say forced, but I can see why people would say you're kind of forced to drive during these certain hours because you're going to make more during those hours. You're going to make more on a Saturday night versus a Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m.
Okay, so you're saying that for you, you're feeling that like your status is skewed more towards employee versus independent contractor. Somewhat.
Yes, I feel a lot of people would agree with me on that. What's your take on this? Do you feel more like you're an independent contractor or...
Well, I feel independent for sure. And I feel like I have the freedom and the flexibility to log into the app and to drive anytime I want. I have that as a right. I have that as a freedom, and I actually enjoy the heck out of it. It's one of the things that really attracts me about, I guess maybe, I'm not going to say the sharing economy, but about driving for Uber, for Lyft, or even doing Uber Eats or the on-demand, services as well. So I love that freedom and flexibility. But, what's been happening over like the last several years is that while it seems like I have the freedom and flexibility to log into the app and to log off at any time, it seems like it's like what happens when I'm on the app, not like when I'm just, logging in, right? It's like what happens when I'm on. And a few things is like, for example, like I can't to no degree really determine what my fares or rates are. You know what I mean? So that kind of like, it irks me a little bit knowing that at any given time, Uber or Lyft can reduce the fares. I don't have any negotiating power. I don't have any ability to set my own terms in terms of, earnings per trip. So that kind of takes away freedom for me. Okay.
Unlike a taxi driver, you know, when they pick someone up, what do the person says? I want to go here, I want to go there. The driver has an idea of where he's gonna go. He somewhat has an idea of how much money he's gonna make. With an Uber driver, it's like you're blind. You got no idea. You don't know where you're gonna go.
Well, I think that's another part of it is that, like, so it's great. So I know where my pickup location is, but I don't know where my drop-off location is.
Should be San Jose.
Yeah, and I really don't have a choice but to accept the ride, and then drive wherever. It could be a block away or it could be 10 miles away, and technically that's the only way I can make a determination at that point of if I want to accept the ride or not, or take the ride. I like the idea. I think what lends more to independent contractor, first of all, is that an independent contractor should know the details of their job prior to taking it. In other words, I think me as a driver, I should be able to know where the pickup location is and where the drop-off location is, and then I can make a decision, a determination that if I want that particular job or not, based on also it should display how much I'm to get for that particular, for that job. To me, that really solidifies and lends towards being an independent contractor, when I have that, when I have those things kind of factored in.
When you can say no, when you want to say no.
Yeah, and of course, both the rideshare companies, we're speaking primarily of Uber and Lyft, say that you have the right to turn down, or you have the right, not to accept. But, there are some stipulations with that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, the fares have been dropped down to such a degree that now you have these bonuses and these incentives. Now, but there are some terms to it, right? Those terms are what? An acceptance rate.
Yeah, you X amount of rides per hour to guarantee for...
Or guarantees or whatever. So like, if you don't accept 75% of the rides, you may not qualify for your weekly bonus, which here in San Francisco could be anywhere from $400 to $500 if you have that offer per week after 120 trips. So you have to accept 75% or more. So that's kind of like putting a little bit of pressure on me to say that, like, I can't.
I need to accept every single trip.
Yeah, and so in that case, I'm not too happy with it. But even aside from my own personal opinion of, what I think defines an independent contractor versus an employee, I think more so I look towards the legalities of the law and what the law says. And I have to talk specifically about California. And as it appears right now, it seems like the level of control that both Uber and Lyft have over their drivers is skewed more towards employee.
Yeah.
These hourly guarantees, there's a schedule. You've got the inability for a driver to negotiate on fares. And this is not coming from me. This is coming from, whether it be the Unemployment Division or the California Labor Board. So it's becoming more and more, it's leaning more and more towards that a driver their classification has been skewed. It's blurred the lines, and they're more so at this point, employees.
Yeah, and it's almost like the hourly guarantees and the bonuses. It's almost a trick to get people to stay out longer. Like, I talked to so many drivers on Sunday. They're driving all day on Sunday,
trying to hit that magic number.
All day, and then they say the same thing. They say, oh, I need to do 2 more rides, and I just got this long ride going really far away, and why couldn't I just get a really short ride? I mean, that's just how it is. Like, it's like you're almost an employee.
Yeah, I mean, there's just too much that that skews the classification, and I think it's becoming more and more evident with regards to kind of the National Labor Board, as well as for example, the California Labor Board and unemployment divisions throughout the U.S., that there is a major skewing of the status of what a driver really is. But we would definitely like to get an idea from you guys, some feedback in the comments. Be sure to comment below how you feel, where do you fit and where do you believe you fit. And it's like, for me, again, it's not much of a personal opinion as it is when I look at the law and how that law applies to me, at least here in California. It seems like I'm an employee I mean,
Yeah.
based on the level of control and certain behaviors that the TNCs have, and again, certain institutions, the labor board and unemployment division seem to be upholding this to be true. Hence, we have the classification lawsuit, the misclassification, the most recent one, Boston or Massachusetts.
What, for 20 million?
No, that's the FTC. No, the 100 million one that's been going back and forth. That
that's a big one.
that Uber tried to settle for 100 million. The Judge Chen out of San Francisco threw it back out. Uber's threatened to go to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to appeal against, for arbitration. They went for a second, and then they turned around and they came back to negotiate, which to me really says that they don't have a case to get it thrown out. Somebody must have slipped them a note and says, look, it's not going to happen, so you better go back to the negotiating table. And that's what's happened. So right now we're kind of at a stalemate. We're kind of waiting to see what happens. And I think fortunately Judge Chen, the judge residing over the case in San Francisco, has been he's upholding the law based on the evidence and the information that's been received. And he's not accepting $100 million for drivers, which basically comes out to roughly lunch.
Yeah,
for like every driver. $7.84 or something.
Yeah.
The lawyer, what's her name? Sledgehammer. She's going to get 30%. She wanted to settle because that's 30 million in her pocket.
Oh yeah.
She already settled for the LYFT case, which was I was surprised that the LYFT misclassification case, they got it settled and they kind of got away with it to some degree. But it's not over. It's never over.
Yeah. For drivers to make any money, drivers won't make any money off of the cases, basically.
Right. What do you think is going to happen in the future? I mean, you got the UK now is, so you have different. First of all, you got the U.S. and you got different states that are looking at this. New York, there's a misclassification lawsuit. And there's multiple states that are moving in this direction to recognize drivers as employees now. And then you've got like the UK, which is huge. That's been a huge one. They've allowed that lawsuit to continue. What do you think is going to happen, man?
Who knows? I mean, just watching the content from the UK, they don't react the same way that we do here in the Bay. I see protests, I see riots, I see crazy stuff going on, and I almost wish that stuff was going on here.
They're a hell of a lot more active, and those guys get together, and they're not letting anybody kind of,
especially in Paris,
exploit them in a sense. Yeah,
especially in Paris,
burning down cars and all that stuff.
I mean, on the freeway, like that would.
Well, they pretty much kicked out Uber in a sense, and at least Uber Pool or Uber. What was the Paris
Uber
Pop.
Yeah.
And I think now the vehicles have to be regulated. But I think there's a misconception. I think drivers say, well, I think there's a fear in terms of how drivers feel about the classification. They feel that because Uber has put this out, you'll lose your freedom, you'll lose your flexibility if you are
an employee.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually a misconception. It's a play of words, and it's not the case, because if you think about it, the case is not about changing a driver's status. Mm-hmm. So in other words, if Uber loses the case, drivers are not going to become
they're not going to become employees overnight. No.
By law, the only one that can determine what the business structure is for Uber and Lyft is Uber and Lyft. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of drivers particularly are a little afraid about that. They don't want to lose their freedom. It's not the case. Any lawsuit that is lost with regards to classification does not change a driver's classification. What it does is that it forces the companies to restructure what level of control, what infractions were identified with regards to so-called independent contractors. Correct those. And if they're not corrected, there is, here in the U.S., a per incident fee, as I looked up, which would be $10,000 per incident. So in other words, if it gets to a point where drivers are recognized as employees and Uber and Lyft or whomever infracts upon an individual,
$10,000.
It's $10,000 per head. So there's a lot of money to potentially be lost in the future for these ride shares. And Uber, no matter they just, I don't get it. They just keep on
It's
doing
just like
things.
they take a lighter and they just take money and they just burn the money. Like,
They just keep on burning this money, and this lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, and so they don't seem to get it. Not too sure why they're doing it. Not too sure if it's a kind of an arrogance thing, or is this major defiance thing, or if it's because, you know, it's worth losing money in terms of court cases and lawsuits to get to their goal, to reach their objective. So I don't know.
to push out the competition, but like, how much money can they lose is what I want to know.
I think eventually you might be losing all the investors' money. But in any case, so that's a pretty interesting thing. We'd love to hear back from you guys with regards to how you feel about, you know, what you are. You know, do you feel like you're an independent contractor or an employee? So in any case, let's go to our sponsor. We've introduced our sponsor, Holy Chocolates, last week, who has some really amazing, there is a link in the description below. We've talked about the hot chocolates, which are just absolutely fantastic and amazing. I've said it before, these hot chocolates are like, it's like
Mike
drinking,
is a huge
I'm a
fan.
huge lover of Holy Chocolates. I mean, I got to tell you, like I said, the hot chocolates, it's like drinking a chocolate bar. It's silky, it's smooth, and it almost like tastes like there's whipped cream in there. It's amazing, it's tantalizing. I'm serious. I mean, I don't
Mike,
talk.
I want one of these right now. Is how you're describing it to me. Like,
When we're done, let's go to Starbucks and get some 6 ounces of hot water, and like put in our
you can do that.
and put in our hot chocolate and try it out, and then we'll tell you about it next week. But try it for yourself. Linked in the description below. Check out the chocolate bars. They're amazing. They come from different regions, and I got to tell you, for the price, it's actually not a bad deal. Okay, moving on to our next segment, number 3 of episode 4. Did we ever even mention that this is episode 4?
This is episode 4.
I know it is, but did we
Already.
say that it's episode 4?
Episode 4.
It's,
Rideshare
it's
report.
episode 4, guys. Rideshare show. A bleeper. We'll bleep that out.
Bleep.
Okay. 10 ways to get deactivated from Uber or Lyft.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to go through a list, and just so you know, there are some subtle differences. Well, it's not subtle, but there are differences between being deactivated and suspended. So deactivation is generally permanent to some degree. Suspension is temporary. But in any case, let's move on. So the first one is low ratings. I think this is probably the most common
easiest
reason.
way to get deactivated is low ratings on Uber.
What do you think some of the reasons why drivers get low ratings to begin with?
Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. Last night, I requested an Uber, and you know the driver was 3 minutes away, and I was way in the Berkeley Hills. This is not a convenient place for drivers to really pick up from. And you know, there was a driver 3 minutes away. I walk outside. You know, the driver pulls up, and I'm thinking, great, we're about to go. I'm about to go home. I'm ready to leave this party. The driver asks, where are you going? And I say, I usually don't really tell a driver where I'm going because the address is already in. You know, the driver should just, you know, accept the request and start the trip, and then you will see the address. But I told the driver where I was going. I said, oh, I'm just going to West Oakland. This is not that far away. It's a 14-minute drive, and you don't have to cross any bridges or anything. And the driver just refused. He said, no, I'm not going over there. I want to stay around here. And I'm thinking, oh, all right, I guess I'll have to request another Uber. That can definitely get you deactivated, and that can get you low ratings. I mean, I did not give him a low rating because I, you know, just let the...
Because you're an Uber driver?
Well, because I'm an Uber driver, and also I would have to cancel it myself, and that would have charged me. So I just waited 2 or 3 minutes, and I let him cancel because, you know, that's just how it works. And it will actually hurt his acceptance rating.
Well, you know,
cancellation rating.
here's the thing, that drivers are becoming more picky and choosy when it comes to their rides. First of all, you know,
So true.
there are certain offers and guarantees or whatever where a driver might actually accept a ride, ask you where you're going, and then if it doesn't favor them, they might cancel. I mean, personally, if I get a ride and the driver's going down to San Jose, the rider is going down to San Jose, I might not take it myself. You know why? Because San Jose used to be a $90 trip. Now it's like half. Which
No, it's
means,
not even half.
and it
I've seen $37.
It's
and
2
stuff.
hours round trip from the heart of San Francisco to San Jose and back, and that's probably without traffic. So you can imagine, you get a $30 trip, that seems lovely, but then you're coming back, that cuts down your time. You're looking at $12, $13, $14, $15 an hour. you could probably make more money just zipping around within your local geographical area.
Probably make more money. No, with those numbers, you will make more money, and less mileage on your car. San Jose is what, 50 miles from here. 100 miles round trip.
Yeah, don't want to get into too much detail about low ratings. We want to move on to the next. But one thing is for sure is that probably one of the number one things when it comes to low ratings, and we'll talk about how to improve your ratings in the future, is GPS navigation. That is definitely one of them.
Yeah. But a lot of riders get upset when you don't use
4.6 or less is what can get you deactivated on the Uber platform if your ratings are too low. Keep that in mind and try to keep your ratings up. We'll talk about how to improve ratings in the future. Denying rides to people with disabilities or people with service dogs. This is huge.
It's a huge no-no.
Now, here's the thing. You're an independent contractor. And you pull up and someone has a wheelchair or someone is blind and you're like, I'm not going to take them because I'm an independent contractor and I got the right to do this and I can take anyone I want. Or you pull up and someone has a big fluffy dog. They might be the dog might be an eye-seeing dog, for a person with visual disabilities. And you're like, I don't want dogs in my car because I'm allergic to dogs. Guess what, guys? You're going to get deactivated. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It's now it's a gray area. Okay, it's a gray area because I know a girl who actually got deactivated for not accepting a person who had disabilities, visual disabilities, with a dog. She got deactivated, but she came back to LYFT and said, "Hey, listen, the law stipulates that only commercial entities are required to accept people with disabilities by law." Or, so in other words, a taxi, a bus, a limo driver. A driver, technically, if you think about it, no commercial license. Uber, Lyft driver, no commercial license, no commercial permits.
Ooh, I never thought about that.
So it is a gray area, but I will tell you this, regardless of what you think, regardless of if you have allergies, they don't count. If you got a note from your doctor, it doesn't count. There is nothing that you could possibly say. Even if, check this out, even if the person says, my dog is a therapy dog, which doesn't qualify as a service dog, technically you don't have to pick that person up with their dog, you can still get deactivated.
Okay, I got a good question for you. What happens if I pick up a dog at the beach and the dog is full of sand? Or I pick up a dog at the beach and the dog has mud all over the dog? What would I do in this situation? Do I pick the customer up and do I charge a cleaning fee? Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Well, you should also actually be prepared to have pets in your car. Again, ideally, service dogs for people. These are official service dogs. That means they've been trained. And you know a service dog because the person will have them sit on the floor. They're well trained, by the way.
That's why it helps to have seat covers in your car.
Seat covers, and also I know a lot of drivers have blankets. I used to keep a blanket in my car. I don't have one, and because I'm okay, it's not much of a mess because of my sexy leather-like seats. So, but seat covers is one of the reasons why I got seat covers that are leather-like, because they clean easy. So, but it's something that's really important. First of all, you should be servicing people with disabilities. You should be kind and nice to them. Not to say you're going to treat them any greater or better than anybody else, but you should accommodate them and their dogs. Be prepared. Have a towel in your car, a large one. Be prepared for it, because if you're not, and if you've denied people with service dogs, and by law you can't ask someone, believe it or not, by law you cannot ask someone to have proof that they're like tags. Mm-hmm. Show me your service dog tags. An individual is not, you can look it up. The ADA actually have a link to that in the description, remind me, so you guys understand that. But that's one way you can become deactivated. Be conscious and aware of that. Okay, rider safety, driving behavior, personal behavior. This is a big one, and I think we read a lot on these type of deactivations, and they're actually pretty scary. I just want to put it out to, if you're watching this video, and if you have any propensity, any tendency, any idea, any thought that you may take advantage of a rider, male or female, that may be intoxicated, mm-hmm. or because they're, you find them attractive, and you think that it's okay to verbally make comments, mm-hmm. or physically touch them, you are not only preparing yourself for deactivation, but what else can happen?
You can find yourself sitting in jail.
Locked up, and you're going to be one of those Uber drivers that are going to be plastered all over the freaking, media.
We may even be
internet.
making videos talking
Right.
about you.
You know, I just want to put it out. I hope somebody who's thinking about it gets the message, is that you're going to be caught. Okay, it's not worth it. Doing harm to another human being, putting yourself in a bad situation. Though I have less concern about you than I personally do about a victim. But it's not going to happen. You're not going to get away with it. The person is drunk and intoxicated, and you should not at all even touch someone if they're drunk and intoxicated. If you cannot get them out of your car, call the police, yada, yada, yada. So personal behavior is really important on how you interact with a person intoxicated. If someone invites you into their home, I would not do it because you're setting yourself up.
Right.
But
who knows what can happen?
But then there's also driving. I mean, have you seen any drivers out there who are just kind of really wacky and just doing some crazy stuff?
Yeah, I mean, in the city, I see drivers doing things that are just out there. I mean, I see drivers, literally smoking cigarettes in the car, and they're accepting a request at the same time. And I'm thinking,
It's possible you can get deactivated for that. But
I'm thinking, okay, you're smoking a cigarette. You're not supposed to smoke in the car. You know, you're gonna pick your rider up, and the car's gonna smell like cigarettes. I see that quite often.
more importantly is driver safety. Speeding, holding your phone while driving, if you are jeopardizing the rider and, of course, the general public.
Reckless driving.
Reckless driving. These are reasons why you might get deactivated. Your personal behavior, how you engage with a rider, as well as your driving behavior. So you better check those guys. Let's see. Number 4, update background check. So, Uber and Lyft both are now are supposed to run a background check at least once every year. So it's not uncommon that, you might have gotten away. You might have had a clean record on that first background check. But then between that time, that background check, and the new updated one, something happened. Maybe you got a DUI. I don't know, maybe there was a domestic related dispute. Maybe you got arrested. Maybe, what else could happen?
A felony of some sort or anything.
Anything could have happened.
Interesting.
That might be showing up on your record. So
and it takes a little bit of time for them to run the background check and see, okay, this
Right.
happened 6 months ago.
Exactly, and that's in between the first background check, and there you find yourself deactivated. So it's not a one-time background check thing, guys. It's an ongoing background check. It's required by law. Every city and state has their own sort of regulations with regards to that, but just assume that background checks are going to happen once a year. You want to keep your nose clean. You want to keep it clean to the T. There is no room for anything to happen, because it'll come up on a future background check. So,
and they'll just get you then.
and then that's when you're going to get the big D, the big deactivation.
Yeah.
Period.
You don't want the deactivation.
Inactivity. Okay, so now this is what I've heard this happen to a number of drivers. They started driving for several months. Maybe they're students and they're driving during the course of the summer break, and then January comes around, or they stop driving. Just 2 months. They start driving again in January. Christmas holidays and New Year's or December, January, whatever. And all of a sudden they realize that their app is not working. It says that the app, what does it say,
No longer something, I forget what it says.
No longer active, or contact support or something to that degree. In any case, in order to really remain consistently active on the Uber driver platform, this does not apply to Lyft, apparently, not to my knowledge. But on Uber,
one ride a month?
At least one ride a month, you want to show some activity to let them know. Now, here's the thing, is that I've heard stories. Now, there are some drivers that are fathered in. Is that the right word, fathered in? Mm-hmm. Or that, to the 20% gratuity. I'm still 20% because I started driving in 2013, right? Mm-hmm. So if I become inactive, or a driver becomes inactive,
they can increase it to 25.
Right, and they get sort of reactivated or whatever. You might find yourself at the 25% or the next commission threshold. So you want to maintain at least one ride a month. And I know some people are going out of the country. They're going back home, or they have to take breaks. So there is a possibility that you can't take a ride. What are you going to do? Your best your best recourse, your best bet is to contact Uber and Lyft. Go down to a green light hub, if anything, say, hey, look, I'm going out of the country, going back home for a month, 2 months. I just want to let you know, I don't want you to suspend my account or, set it up to be an inactive account. So it's kind of borderline. It's not like you're being really truly deactivated. It's not permanent, but it could affect your earning structure, and then the hassle of getting set up again. So this is one that I found to be really strange. It's talking out and against Uber specifically, bad mouthing Uber. And social media.
This one is very interesting.
Twitter.
I don't think a lot of people know that you can be deactivated from Uber for, going to social media saying, this happened to me, in an Uber, or this is something that you can get deactivated for. I've seen drivers post things in the Facebook groups, and they post something a few days later saying that they got deactivated because they posted this on Facebook. Yes, you can get deactivated for something.
And it's not just what you post. It's what you post per se. I mean, if you're using profanity, or if you're really kind of attacking Uber,
or a rider, like you're taking a picture of a woman sleeping in your car and you're posting that on Facebook, is a no-no.
Yeah. But definitely be careful what you say on Facebook, on Twitter, or if you're making comments on a blog or a news article in the comments, and that you're kind of really bad-mouthing Uber and using just crazy language, whatever it is, you may find yourself deactivated. I know several drivers that have said some things and they got deactivated. I do know one driver who did get reactivated, because sometimes it makes it to someone like BuzzFeed, and BuzzFeed, has this, BuzzFeed is your friend. So if things happen, drivers run to BuzzFeed, because BuzzFeed, I'm not going to get into it, but BuzzFeed likes to find the dirt and stuff on Uber.
Or any big company.
Any big company for that. Yeah. So just be careful what you say, where you say it, how you say it, and why you say it. If you want to continue to drive, it's just a heads up. It
has happened in the past.
You have the right to say what you want, but Uber will actually say, you can email them, they'll actually say, yes, we may consider deactivating you, something like that. Now here's one that kind of really gets me. Sometimes
oh gosh.
Okay, so there's a new system out, and it's the real-time ID check,
which is kind of interesting.
I think it's a great idea.
Randomly, you'll get a message pop up. You got to take a photo. Of yourself.
Take a photo. It's got to match your profile to make sure that's you. Now, one of the reasons why that's been implemented is because drivers thought it was okay to say, to their grandma, hey grandma, here you go, take my car and my phone and go make some money. Or their brother.
Okay,
or
brother,
their
not
friend.
grandma. Brother.
Why
okay.
not? Grandmas can still drive.
Yeah, but they can.
So these guys and girls were actually allowing other people to drive their car and use their Uber app, and they were showing up, and the rider's like, whoa, wait, that's not you? You're not Jennifer. I'm Bob. I'm Jennifer's husband.
I saw in the Facebook groups once, it was a guy, he posted up his summer, and he drove like roughly I think it was 87 hours. And the first thing I thought of was, okay, you obviously gave your phone to someone else. There's no way you sat in the car and drove 87 hours.
Oh no, I beg to differ, dude. I think there are guys. I know a guy personally who does 70 plus hours a week in San Francisco, out of Sacramento.
Okay, but 87 hours, to drive 87 hours, you're in the car even longer than that. Think about it. You're in the car 110 hours.
I'm telling you, it's possible. But the point is that you definitely...
Crazy.
Okay, so it's going to be hard to do that now, especially if you do give your phone out, in your car out to a friend, family member, or whomever. You're trying to sublet it and make some money on the side. Maybe you're out of the country. And worst case scenario is that ID check thing comes up and they take a picture of themselves.
And it's not you.
It's not you, and you're really screwed. It's a dumb thing to do, though many have done it. Hence, there's a lot of dummies out there. Guys, come on. I mean, really, common sense, costs you nothing. I mean, really.
Common sense costs you nothing.
So also having number, I should have numbered these, right? Number 8. Okay, moving right along. Not having the correct vehicle on file. Now this could happen. Let's say that you're driving your car, it's on the Uber platform, your Honda Accord 2016, but you get into an accident. Nobody knows about it except your insurance company, and you decide that, well, it's in the repair shop, so I'm going to borrow my wife's car, her Prius 2012, and you start driving and you go pick up a rider. Obviously your phone, your car profile is in there. The rider's going to go like, wait, and then sure, you might be able to convince the rider that, hey, it's me, you can see my picture, it's a different car, and the rider might even agree, no problem. But once that information gets back to Uber, if you are not using the exact vehicle that's on your platform, if you're using an incorrect vehicle, chances that you're going to get deactivated.
And I kind of want to expand on this just a little bit, because as a lot of you guys know, I rent cars to drive for Uber. And once I rented a car and I took it to the Uber office, and they, put all the information in the computer, and I went and picked up the first rider, and the information did not match up. Like they said the car was a green car and it was like a red car. And that could possibly get me, in trouble with Uber. So even if you're renting a car, you still want to make sure that the information is correct.
You want to make sure that the correct vehicle is, that you're using on the platform is listed in your driver profile, the right color, the right make, the right model.
Yeah, LX or LS, that makes a difference.
Exactly. And keep in mind, you can have multiple vehicles on the platform. So, if you do have more than one car, that does qualify, or like your wife's car, as long as you're on the insurance, etc. You may want to add that now, just to be prepared in case you need to switch cars. So you can do that. You can either go into the Greenlight Hub, or you should be able to do that. I think you can do that in the app. You might be able to add vehicles in the app. With Lyft, you can add vehicles in the app. Uber, I think, is a little bit more challenging.
Yeah,
but in any case, you can add multiple vehicles. Those vehicles are going to require all the documents associated with it, the registration, insurance, etc. So, but you want to make sure that you have the right car, and make sure if you have multiple vehicles that you are switching. When you're in that vehicle, that you switch in your under your profile to that vehicle. I know a driver who got deactivated because he forgot to switch his car from the Prius to his BMW.
That's just a simple mistake.
SUV, yeah. And then the rider said something, and he got deactivated on Lyft. But he got cleared up. But it can be a hassle, downtime, lose money, etc. All right, number 9.
Rolling through these.
So I've heard about this now.
This is an interesting one here.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is a permanent deactivation or temporary, but it could possibly go either way. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but giving too many rides to the same person, or friends, sometimes you may request a ride continuously from the same person. Obviously you're sitting next to them, or they're in their car already and they request you.
Or if you're in a small town where there's just not that many requests coming up and you're the only driver, you could possibly pick up the same person twice in the same day.
Well, that's a pretty small damn town, but
it's happened in Oakland before. I've been picked up by the same driver twice back to back, because they picked me up and they dropped me off here, and I was there for 5 minutes, and that driver was probably parked right outside. And then I re-requested, and I got the same driver again.
So the Lyft system won't allow you to pick up the same rider more than 3 times.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken. I'm not too sure how the Uber system works.
No, but I think it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't actually, because I've heard that drivers have had the same persons more than 3 times. But the thing is that friends and family. So when you're requesting those people too often, considering that there's hundreds of thousands of people in your city.
And there's also bonuses and incentives every week.
Right, so it can come up as fraudulent.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful if you're doing that. It's definitely a potential reason, or creates the potential of
a red flag.
Red flag will go up. The same person 4 times in the same week. Uber has their reasons why they don't find this to be too kosher in a sense, but it can get you suspended, even so permanently deactivated, because again, a red flag can equal fraud. It's something that you definitely have to consider. All right, so we got another one. Number 10, last but not least, and there's probably a whole bunch more we can come up with, but I think these are pretty solid. Soliciting gratuities, and maybe even 5-star ratings, but definitely gratuities can get you suspended. Now, sometimes I've noticed in social media, on some of the Facebook groups, that drivers, post up that Uber warned them that they were asking for money. And actually, it never really happened with most of the drivers. It's like, I never solicit, I never ask for anything or anything like that.
This has happened to me. I've received a message saying that you're soliciting tips, or you're promoting businesses, and I'm thinking, I'm not promoting any businesses. I haven't said anything.
And I think we should add that in, forgive us, but soliciting gratuities and or promoting businesses. So if you're running your own business and you're constantly handing out cars. Now, I think Uber has really laxed up with both of these for the most part. But I think there is a threshold that I think if you are verbally, in a sense, saying, could you tip me, $5 or $10? That could potentially, of course, it's the rider's word over yours, but that could put, and of course, if the rider happens to be an Uber employee.
Yeah. Like around here, you might pick up one.
Which is funny because a lot of riders don't realize you could be picking up an Uber employee and they could be your worst enemy or your best friend. You know what I mean?
They really can. And that's why I don't like to put tip signs in my car, because I don't want to pick up an Uber employee. Like, we live in Uberville.
Well, you know something? I don't care if I pick up an Uber employee and they see my tip signs. Again, it's not directly asking for, it's suggesting. And that's now allowable. Part of the stipulations, Uber's relaxed that whole tipping thing. You can have a sign in your car. But I think verbally saying, hey, can you give me a tip, is definitely, first of all, it's uncool. I got to tell you, I had a driver once, and I forgot where he's from, but he said something and I was like, what? He's like, when I finally understood him, he's like, can you give me 5 stars? And first of all,
I get that quite often.
I was actually, my feelings were hurt. I'm like, man, that is just so messed up that somebody would be so concerned about their star rating that they would ask for 5 stars. I felt really bad.
It happens. It still happens quite often to me.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like that's I don't think it's a great thing. First of all, I think if you ask for 5 stars, chances are you're going to get 3 for asking. So it might not be a good idea to ask for stars. Just be a 5-star guy. I'm not saying get out and open up the doors, but I tell you, I'm gonna open up my trunk because I don't want anybody banging it up, with luggage. But I'm not gonna open up doors. I don't have bottled waters in my car. I do have a tip jar that I just started to use. I'm gonna be doing a review on a chip jar, and we're gonna be doing something with regards to tip jars and talk about that and how effective they are. Probably interviewing drivers who are actually using them. But I'm not going to solicit. I'm not going to ask anybody for 5 stars or
No, it's just like
money.
It's just like a waiter asking, "Hey, can I have a tip?" How that would just be really awkward.
All right, guys. Segment 3, the grand finale. Rent versus lease versus ownership, and this is really a big one. I think a lot of people, I get a lot of requests, I get a lot of texts, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails about, where can I rent a vehicle? Is it a good idea? I'm constantly explaining this to them. And
I think it's a great idea to rent a car.
So, you think it's a great idea?
Well, it really depends on how much you're driving. If you plan to drive Friday night and Saturday nights, only the bar hours, and you already have a car, you don't really need to go out and rent a car. You're not driving that much. Now, if you're the type of driver, you're driving for a living, like you're driving 5 days, 6 days, 7 days a week, I would highly recommend renting a car. Not leasing a car, not buying a car, but renting a car. And the main difference between leasing and buying, well, when you rent, you don't have to put your credit on the line. You just pay a $250 deposit. You rent the car for a month. Now, you don't have to worry about the maintenance. You don't have to worry about the mileage. You don't have to worry about insurance. Now, things that you do have to worry about, you can't keep the car for like a year. You have to you can only keep the car for 4 weeks at a time.
And then you have to re-rent.
You have to re-rent, so that could take you time. Then you have to go back to the Uber office and link the car up. However, you don't ever have to, like, you know, take the car for an oil change like you would do on a normal car that you own yourself.
Maintenance is included.
Yep, maintenance is included. If you ever have problems, there's roadside assistance. There's definitely benefits. Or let's say you don't even have a car. There's a lot of college students. I've, you know, got to sign up for Uber, and these people don't even have a car at all. So, you know, with the rental car program, you know, you don't have to put down $1,000 to go lease a car. You can just put down $250, rent a car.
Wait, it's not $1,000 to lease. It's $250
to lease.
Down payment.
Yeah, but not everyone goes to the Uber lease program. Some people may have a little bit better.
Have to?
Well, okay. Let's say someone was buying a car. Well, they go to the Toyota dealership. They're going to need to put down some money to buy that car.
So, yeah.
You know, I'm sort of like, you know, putting them together.
Right.
I mean, I'm not really talking about the Uber leasing program because I think that could be a whole nother segment in a video if we want to talk about the Uber leasing program.
Well, no, it's part of this. I mean, it's renting versus leasing versus ownership. I mean, so
yeah, but when we talk about the Uber program, that could just there's so much to say about that.
Right.
You know.
Well, I mean, overall, it's called it's Uber's Vehicle Solutions Program. Their Vehicle Solutions Program covers rental and leasing. Now, it's not available in every city. It's probably available in anywhere from 10 to 15 major cities: Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, San Francisco. So it's not a rental is not available everywhere. So now I get lots of calls. I get a lot of conversations with drivers and whether it's worth it or not. And I never say it is. So now, because my perspective is a little different. First of all, in San Francisco, renting a vehicle is actually not that bad of a deal because you have all those benefits. You have insurance included, maintenance, and what was the other one?
Mileage.
Insurance.
Insurance,
maintenance, and unlimited miles. Okay, so you have all those costs removed, but the cost, your out-of-pocket cost, is about $250 a week when it comes with taxes.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. That cost does not vary. In San Francisco, you as a full-time driver, you can make about $1,100-$1,200 a week. So if $250 goes towards your rental, it's not a bad deal, right? However, that cost is consistent everywhere in the U.S. It's not cheaper in Denver because you're going to make less money in Denver. It's not cheaper in Detroit. So your costs for vehicle rental or lease is the same throughout the USA. What's not the same is your earnings factor. And that's where
important.
That's where it can you got to kind of weigh it out. So in other words, if you're driving in Detroit and the average driver who's working full time doing 40-50 hours is making $700, is it worth coming home with $550? We're not even talking about gas. We're just talking about $250 minus $700, you know, net. You know, and then you still have to add in your other expenses. You could be $10 an hour. You could be working for what? $10 an hour.
Or even less.
Or less. So, you know, this is where it gets a little tricky. So just jumping the gun, you got to do your homework. You got to know what the cost is, factor in gas, try to get an idea of what drivers are earning in that market or city. You can connect on Facebook with groups in your city, so you can ask. If you Google, first of all, to find out if rental is actually even available, and if rental is, so is lease. You can Google Uber Hertz rental. You go to Hertz website. It'll give you the list of available cities that rent. It's identical to Enterprise. Enterprise and Hertz is the same, but I hear in some cities Enterprise actually charges a little bit more on the down payment. It might be $350 plus the first
month.
First month. Now, also some of the benefits with regards to rental is that Uber's been rolling around with these free rental programs. So depending upon your city, just don't jump into it. Find out. Try to contact Uber, and find out. So the free rental is they'll let you rent a car for free.
Yeah, if you complete, I think 80 rides in some markets.
75 rides plus in a week. You got to have a 90% acceptance rate, and I'll tell you, that's pretty tight. That's 9 out of 10 rides, 90 out of 100. You got to accept. So accept them all.
Oh gosh, that is tough.
So now if you could hook that in, that's definitely a freaking deal. Of course, it also depends on your state. So again, but you're gonna have to figure out the money, all the factors, how the earnings potential in your market, and figure that. Now getting over to lease now. So we got the rental, okay. Getting over to lease. Lease is a lot cheaper. It's about $100 cheaper because it can start off at $140.
Yeah, but what about insurance? So you have to add the insurance.
It can start off at $140 lease, taxes and applicable fees not included, up to $200 and change depending upon your vehicle. So if you get like a small, I don't know, Corolla, for example, you might be able to get it for $140, which is not bad. It does include unlimited mileage and maintenance, but the insurance you have to come out of pocket.
Okay, so what's up
so
with the
insurance can run you anywhere from $50 to $100 a month. That's not bad.
I guess that's not bad. Now, I guess that's not bad. But what about the maintenance? Is it unlimited mileage or is it? Because
it's unlimited mileage. Now, there's 2 different leases. This is really important to know. So when you go for your initial lease, okay, a credit factor, they factor in your credit, worthiness. Now, if you don't qualify for the lease, because they run a credit check, unlike they do on
the Enterprise.
On Enterprise, though,
Hertz.
the only thing on Hertz or Enterprise, you got to be 25 years of age or older. Okay, that's a requirement. But on the lease, they'll run a credit check. If your credit check comes back, they might roll you into BAMA leasing.
Ooh.
Okay, BAMA is an old leasing, and it's really something you want to run away from because it's not unlimited miles. You're going to be paying roughly about the same, maybe a little bit more on the lease. I know a guy, he was paying $200 and change for a Toyota Prius.
Ooh.
So hybrids can cost you more on a lease. So, but they run a credit check. And the other thing is that if you do lease, it could help to improve your credit if you make your payments on time.
This is true.
So, and then of course we get to ownership. So what do you think about owning a vehicle?
Owning a vehicle for Uber.
Well, first of all, I think that if anybody's considering leasing and renting, it's because they can't afford to own one or they don't have their own. I mean, predominantly, though, I do know people. Actually, I do know a driver who is actually leasing with LYFT, and he actually owns his vehicle. He actually has a car, but he refuses to use it, and he uses a LYFT rental.
Well, it does make sense. Like, what if you have a larger SUV that doesn't get good gas mileage, or you have like a nicer like BMW that you don't want to drive around?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense.
Yeah, it could be a really good idea to lease at the same time.
Mm-hmm. But definitely you gotta weigh out the pros and cons, see where you stand. I think personally, if I'm gonna do rideshare, now I happen to have I got my vehicle new, 2013 Prius, sexy Prius. I'm paying $320 a month, which is not bad. I have practically 0 interest rate, so I have some things in order, and I've driven more than enough to pay for my insurance and my vehicle. I haven't put too much wear and tear on it. I got about 70,000 miles on it in like about 2.5 years.
70,000 miles, 2.5 years. I know drivers that put 70,000 miles on a car in 1 year.
I know drivers that put 120,000 in 1 year. So I'm a lightweight, obviously. I've always been a part-time driver, but I think you really have to do your homework and try to figure out what's best for you. Maybe buying a used car, like a vehicle that that does good on mileage, might be a good investment. But
or become friends with a mechanic, and get a used car, maybe a car that's like 5 years old. Because 5 years old, you still qualify
you can get more than 5 years. You can get a 10-year-old car. But
yeah, but you won't get the same bonuses and incentives with Uber if your car's too old. That's another thing that.
What do you mean?
Is this?
No, that's LYFT.
Oh, this is LYFT. Okay.
Yeah, LYFT. You have to have a 2007 or newer. I think LYFT you have to have a 2007, 2008 or newer in order to get the Power Driver rewards. Uber it doesn't matter. But
They just want more cars on the road.
They just want more cars on the
I've
road.
even
It
heard-
used to be 2005, and then they dropped it to 2001.
I even hear now that you can pick up Uber X in certain markets with a 2-door car. Like that's becoming a thing.
Are you
yeah.
sure?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard of that. And now you can do 2-door, you can do a truck, you can do a tractor trailer, a van,
For
an
Uber
RV for Uber Eats. In your RV.
You can really do an RV for Uber.
Yeah, exactly,
oh,
right?
Gosh, that's a gas
I mean,
guzzler.
and just about anything that moves, you know, including a scooter, you know, whatever, a bicycle,
motorcycle,
or a go-kart, you know, you know. Any case, guys, we've run over time. Unfortunately, we do apologize.
It's a long video.
We want to hear back from you. Get your feedback on, you know, car rentals, you know, or leasing. We want to hear back from you on independent contractor versus employee.
Yeah, definitely want to hear back from independent contractors.
And also those who have been deactivated for any other reasons other than 10 that we mentioned, feedback. Any case, let's go get something to eat. I'm starving.
Yeah, let's go get something to eat. So, back at it again. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Is Jermaine with Jermaine Ellis.
Mike Dean with the Rideshare Report. Thanks for joining us here on the Rideshare Show. We'll see you next week. Peace out. Remember who loves you.
And Uber on.
Wait, what's your thing? Another
day, another adventure.
There you go. Right on. All right, guys. Peace.